Today we are putting in brand new bushings into a Manitou Dorado. There's no guide on how to do this that I could find online. I've already done the air spring leg, and I kind of developed my method, and it turned out really well. The massive clunk seems to be gone. The bushings in this fork are shot. This one is a 2012 model. This applies to, I believe that this generation is from 2010-ish to 2021. And even though they made it for 11 years and they were $2,000, the top model, you cannot get these wear parts anymore besides the seal kit. Really, I was lucky enough to get this rebuild kit. I've been checking for months every now and then, and this one happened to appear on the Manitou website. You can see two of them are missing because they're in the other leg. There's two for each side. They are different, by the way. One is fatter and deeper in the other. But considering there is no material out there on like how you do this, I thought I'd share the method I came up with. It's not complicated. You do need to make a special tool, which I'll show you how to do that too. It's not hard. It's literally $10 worth of hardware from a hardware store, which is good because the only tool I could find is like $700 to do this, but you do not need that whatsoever. I'll play a clip of this particular leg, the play that was in it. I took when I took the damper out and the seal, and I just rocked the stanchion inside, and there's an audible clunk. It was that bad, and I believe this is just because of just excessive abuse, really. So I think this fork got hammered. So I think this is not particularly representative, the amount of wear in these, but they're getting old enough that even just regular use will probably start being a more regular thing. So here is the root of the issue. Basically, suspension forks, the inner and the outer slide, the inner stanchion slides into the outer. On these bushings, they're basically an aluminum sleeve with these Teflon pads, which is a really low friction material. It's a pretty simple process. Basically, these are in the tube and they're backed up to a little ledge in the wall of the tube, so they have a built-in stop. So when you go to put them back in, you can't press them back in too far. But basically, it presents a challenge of how do you grab onto it. The $700 and whatever cool tool that I saw that does this, it's basically an expanding collet. It comes in and it just expands out and grabs it, and then it pulls it out. But considering that's kind of a hard thing to replicate, there's a much easier and more traditional, way of doing this. All you really need to do is find a way of grabbing onto the back of it in order to pull it out. So what I came up with is a pretty standard thing, which how it works is it's basically this piece right here, and it's round. It's the diameter of the outside, so it can press on, but it's like, how do you get it through well? It's got the edges squared off so it can pass through the bushing and then emerge on the other side, and there you go. And then you can pull out all you want, and then it's just all it takes is it's just into the side and then hook. It's hard to do this looking at the camera. That's really all there is to it. For this, these are I believe 1.5" fender washers, and then I just cut a pretty arbitrary amount off the edges. Basically, only reason you're doing that is just for clearance, because if it was fully rounded, see, it won't pass through. You turn it, then it can. So it's basically just enough to do that. I'd probably leave as much as possible just to preserve some strength, because on the first time I did this, I used one of these. I've got it doubled up here. And doing the second one, it bent really bad. I can show you that. But that's just to preserve some meat on it. Like, it doesn't have to last very long. And these washers are like, 40 cents or whatever. And I got a 3-foot section of 7/8 coarse threaded rod. These washers are 7/8 internal. And that whole threaded rod was like $8. And then, $2 for the washers and nuts. I basically cut that rod into sections. So I've got a short piece here, and then for reinstalling them, especially the rear one, or this front one, we have to pull them in from the other side. So that's what the longer piece of threaded rod is for. But as you can see, there really is like nothing to it. It looks super jank and whatever, but basically the professional tools work the same way. They're just really nicely machined. And I'm not saying this is as good or anything, but it will function fine. It does the job fine. And it means that you don't have to pay somebody a bunch of money or buy a super expensive tool. You can just spend $10 and literally 10 minutes squaring off 2 washers, and you can go to town and just be done with it. So the few considerations is like, it's kind of protecting the internals. You don't want to scratch everything up, so I put a piece of inner tube. We all got tubes that'll never be used again, so this is good to protect it when you slide it in, to protect both the bushing as well as the walls of the inside of the fork leg. It's more important for the one deeper down in there, because this is really hard steel and everything in here is aluminum, and you can really wreck stuff. So I would just protect it, and I didn't do that the first time around when I got this guy out, and it's hard to see, but I absolutely marred it up bad, which I'm pulling it out to replace it, but also it's kind of nice to keep spares around, especially if you find out you replace them and you go, oh wow, that wasn't my problem, it's my stanchions are super worn. But it's not that. It shouldn't be that with me. Like, there should be visible, like the hard anodizing should be coming off. But don't ruin parts if you don't have to, because you may have to put them back in or keep them as spares. So here's a better shot showing the first one, and then that second step further back. That is the second bushing. It's about 4 inches further back. And this is literally all there is to it. Slide it in, pull it back. That's gonna press against the face of this. We're gonna wind the nut in and hold on to the rod, and we're going to pull it out. My setup doesn't really provide is built-in kind of parallelism and keeping everything straight. So you kind of have to make sure you're setting that up yourself. So if you hear, I wind this out a little bit. Hear that? That's our little puller. It's not exactly as big as the inside of the tube. That's fine. We don't want it gouging, but we want to make sure it's set kind of centered. We don't want it kind of pulling harder on one side and the other, kind of going cockeyed. Make really, really sure that it has, when it's the puller's in, it actually fully seats on the back of it. It did not. I don't know why I didn't catch that, but it didn't. But it stopped, so let's see. Oh, yep, that happened correctly. Awesome. Yep, you can't really go by feel 100%. So just check, and you won't have this problem. So you can see it's now flush with the end because the washer stopped it, but it is 90% of the way up. Alright, so I'm going to do what I did last time to get all the rest of the way out. I found 2 random pieces of wood that are thick enough, and and I just put one on each side. Remember, like, you gotta be leaving the room in between them for the bushing to come out. So they're resting on not very much. They're not gonna mar anything in the wood. They're softer than the aluminum. These are just spacers. They are an absolute pain to set up like that. That's why I did it off camera. But you can kind of see how this works. It's just providing just enough gap for it to pull all the way out. And we just continue as before, and now you can kind of see in as well, which is nice. There you are. One removed bushing. Alright, now you might be able to see what I was talking about. About the lip right there. That's just what the bushing's pressed against, but that's what makes it hard to grab on the back, is because you don't have the full thickness of the edge of the bushing. You have the thickness of the bushing minus this thickness, so you get like kind of half of it. So by pressing them in is easier because you don't have to worry about that ledge. You just get to push on the whole bushing until it stops. Alright, so now we just gotta get the back one in, and we're ready to push the new ones in and we're done. So this one is a little bit easier because it becomes loose before you get it to the end. So you don't have to deal with those weird spacer things. You just pull it out and you're good. But it's farther down, so it's harder to hook it, the little apparatus. Alright, so in order to get the catch on the rear one, I just taped it. I taped the puller to a nut, dropped it down in, and then got the catch, and I stuck something in there to hold it there, flipped it around, and threaded that into that, and then swing this up, so it should be now just the same as before. Yes! Perfect. So that's what's supposed to happen. So I think all that was wrong was the puller modified washer. Because these are just, round fender washers, this one was a little bigger than the one I was using last time, so it was binding up. So I filed the radius down, and what do you know, it worked first try. So make sure that it's actually smaller than the bushing, and it'll work fine. It's actually a measure. I just kind of assumed, I don't know why. Alright, now that is both bushings removed, you can see the first step. So my thumb's running into right now, you can see that right there, and then the second one for the second bushing is right there. So yeah, now we're ready to put the new ones in. Alright, now that we got our old ones out, which I mangled both of them because I didn't check that my washer was actually the right size, like the last one was. To actually measure stuff, this won't happen. Like it didn't happen last time, so this is kind of unexpected. Here's the new ones, and this is where the jankery gets amped a little bit, but in a really good way. It makes it a lot better. Alright, so this is where it gets a little bit more, I guess more complicated, but better. So for pressing them back in, alignment is more important, so that your bushing doesn't walk around or get dragged sideways down in there. And pulling them out wasn't such a big deal, but now it's a lot more important. So what I came up with was, I've got like these random, I got sockets, right? Ooh, this is nice. What I came up with to preserve some alignment is I found this 24mm impact socket. There's a socket under this rubber, and it's like almost perfect fit inside the other end here, and the rubber is to protect this piece of tube. Is to protect the internals of everything, and where this fits in the end, there's threads, so I want to protect those. This worked brilliantly last time, but basically this is going to come like this, and then we're going to put it in this end, and it'll get dragged in, and we're going to be operating the wrench from that end, because this is going to be disappearing in there, so we'll be able to. And the difference, instead of using our little puller washer, because we don't need it to fit through the bushing and pull it out, we're just pushing it straight in. We can use something better. So I found this 27mm socket. It worked perfectly last time, and if you look at it, it's just a hair smaller, and it's going to interface all the way around. It's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be a lot more stable, and because these are 1/2-inch drive, the socket in the other one, the 7/8 rod goes right through it, but it's fairly snug, so it doesn't want to walk around a lot. It's just a coincidence. But it should work out rather nicely, so I'll show you how I set this up. So we have our big fender washer, which is going to be what we're pressing against. We got our alignment socket, which is going to fit in the end here, and we're just going to feed this whole arrangement through. Yes, this is very jank, but you know, in the interest of just having it done, it works. So there we are. Bada bing. And you can see this really doesn't, this has a little bit of movement, but barely any, so it's gonna help keep this end. Can't really walk around. Okay. And now we can get our bushing and our pushing socket in. Okay, so now we're going to get our bushing in. This is the stressful part. This is where it kind of just has to work. Gonna push it freely on its own for a good ways. Now we're going to get our socket, and I'm just tucking the tube inside of it here, just to keep everything protected, keep that from going anywhere. Okay. Get our washer and our nut. Okay. And then we're gonna just slowly pull that until it stops. That's where the bushing is contacting the area machined for the press fit. So knock it up on this end. Flip it around. Okay. That's the sound of our alignment socket, so we don't really want to flop around much in there. Okay, there's really nothing else to do but crank her down. Okay. Wish me luck. We should feel it like a definitive stop when it hits the ledge, which will tell us it's seated, and then we're done. That socket should not be able to come through the middle. Okay, that should be it. See? You should be able to see the bushing back there. And we can check if it's fully seated if we take a pick and carefully get behind it. We shouldn't feel it move in between it and the ledge. I feel like I kind of do. So we're gonna come in with our life round back and check. Alright, I could feel a 32nd of an inch gap with the pick, I think. So the risk of making things worse, we're gonna give her a little bit more. Okay. Seem to move. No gap. I can't get the pick between the back of the bushing and the ledge. That means it is fully seated. Excellent. Okay, setup for the final bottom outer bushing is even easier. You just slide this back through again. I like to tape this shut around the end when I pass this through, because it'd be such a shame to trash your brand new bushings because this hardened steel threaded rod just grated across them. So I would avoid that. So what you do, pass it over, kind of get it started. It'll kind of stop where it is. Goes in nice and easy, nice and straight. Just like before, we're just going to go until it stops. Okay, that's it stopping. Okay, so now you can see bushings back in there. And we do our simple test. Nope, can't get the pick to drop between the bushing and the ledge. I mean, it's fully seated. And the other way to check is to see if it's below this little step where the oil seal goes. But that means both bushings are installed. So basically, the sum total of what was required. This is the reinstallation setup. It's basically threaded rod, some appropriately sized sockets, a 27 mil. So we're pressing into this 24 mil one that was just for alignment. Big fender washer, that's what it's pressing against the leg for. And then from before, for getting them out. Basically same deal with our little puller washer. Now they're in, so this thing should be ready to put the seals in, put the damper in. I already rebuilt the damper. And this thing should be as close to brand new as possible for something that's 12 years old. Alright, just to try to test a little bit. I'll put a little bit of a lowers oil on there. Don't really want this going in dry. And theoretically, really shouldn't have any play. Yep, none at all. If anything, that's a bit sticky, but that'll wear in at some point. I wish I had a burnishing tool to burnish them correctly, but I don't. But that was way better than before. Can feel a little bit, but I believe that is what you want. Alright, that's really all I got. As you can see, the concept for doing this is pretty straightforward, but like I said in the beginning, I definitely thought that there should be some information about how to do this, so not everybody flies blind if you do need to do this. I'm sure this applies to other forks as well, but this is what I got. So